Gentlemen, welcome back to the other mess of a desk, and in this video I believe in this box we have the DW Rainbow Flying Wing. This was sent to me from Banggood for review. Now those of you which have been watching the channel is that you'll know that I've already been and bought one and pushed it to its limits and beyond. Now, a little note in this video, we are going to be building it from scratch. I'm going to leave as much as I can in this video for you so you can learn everything about building this model. And also, there's also a version 2, which I believe is in the box over there, and I'll do a separate build video. So that's what we're going to be doing. We are going to be building the DW Rainbow Wing, assuming that's what's in that box. And I've not opened this one up, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Now, a little note, I did mention that I have pushed this one to destruction. It was originally sent to me as an EDF version, which really didn't work out very well at all. And then I converted it to a pusher version. I chucked it off a slope in nigh on 40-mile-an-hour wind. I completely overpowered it and I found its limits and almost killed it, in short. So that's why I'm making this video, so that you don't waste your money in trying to overpower this model, because there's a little secret for you. This model is on par with my baby bonsai underneath, and we'll get to these other flying wings in a moment. And the reason why it's on par is because if you stick a little 2S battery in this model, what brilliant fun. I genuinely mean that one. It's got some great characteristics in the air. It's absolutely fantastic to fly. And yeah, I really do like it. And you can see that how much I like it because I've had quite a few unscheduled landings with it, pushing it to its limits. So, before we go any further, I just want to make a point. I really am into my flying wings. This is a Hornet FPV flying wing, which I've been out flying this morning. There's my baby bonsai. Now, my mental bonsai is down the back there, and that one is crazy fast. We've got a racing quadcopter motor on the back of that. It's mental. But this one, you can fly it in pretty much any weather. I've slope sawed it. It's mad. It's even got a cowpat mark on it from when we crashed it last weekend. Straight into a cowpat. I'll put a link to the video up in the top right corner for that one. And also today we literally just went out and sorry, I've hit the camera. Like I said, I'm going to leave it in. Is that we went out and maiden this one as well, which is a Raven flying wing. And you'll notice I've got a Texumo, there's another flying wing, another Texumo, another wing, there's another wing, and there's about another 4 behind me as well. So yeah, I like my flying wings. So let me get these out of the way so we can start this build. So let's start from scratch. I genuinely do hope this is the DW flying wing in here. And like I said, I will leave all mistakes, comments, everything in here. So, and by the way, if you have any comments or suggestions as we're going through this video, remember you can leave me a comment underneath this video in the comment section. I do have the iPad running here as well, so anything which requires a close-up shot, I'll do a close-up on for you. So yeah, it is the Rainbow Flying Wing tail pusher version, and it's the kit. Brilliant. Wingspan 80 centimeters. Brilliant. So let's get her open and see what we got. There you go. That's about the best of an unboxing. Let's have a quick look. Right, the only difference between this version and the tail pusher version, between the EDF version, is that we had 2 circles in the board there. And yeah, that stuff smells really funny. So I'm going to move that out of the way. We have the instruction manual. Really, again, you'll probably be able to see this on the iPad. Yeah, really good quality photos in there. English is just about acceptable. But to be honest, all we're looking for is the C or G, which should be 110 millimeters from, yeah, 110 millimeters from the nose. So that's the C or G point. So brilliant. Let's go and file that out the way. Now, what have we been and got in the bag? You'll notice that I've got some other stuff to my left, and the reason why I've got it to my left is because that's pretty much all the tools which we need available to us. So I've got a hot glue gun, which I'll put on actually right now. And by the way, I'll put a link to this little glue gun in the video description. It costs £4 and it's absolutely brilliant. I don't know if you can see that on the iPad. Brilliant little hot glue gun. Takes these smaller 7.1 hot glue sticks and turn her on. And let's get her up there out the way. And that's the glue gun which we're going to be using for this video. Right, obviously we've got the two wings here, like so. And what have we got for crossbars? We've got a spar for the, no, that looks like the servo leads. So what we got now, servo is going to go in there. We've got a lead line in there for our cable to go in. We need some winglets, which I can see over there. So let's put these out nicely on the desk. There's two winglets. I'll put those to one side. Get rid of the rubbish. Right, what do we get in the bag? Let's open these up. Right, I can already tell you I'm going to need to go in the servo box, which is here somewhere, because while they do send us, in fact, let me put this on the other camera for you. While they do send us some super strong push horns, these end pieces here, these little tiny not crevices, control horns are utter rubbish. I don't even bother using those. I will be hunting out some better ones out of my servo box in a moment. So we'll put those to one side. We did receive some heat shrink. We'll need that to make the push rods for the servos, but we do that last. We've also been and received a propeller, which is a 50-30 of all things. So I've actually got 50-45 already on that motor, ready to go. So spare blade for that. Nothing else in the bag, and a little bit of carbon fibre. Now, I will give you a heads up. I will be modding this one because, like I said, I've already pushed mine to destruction, and I've learnt that we need a little bit of extra reinforcement on the bottom of the actual model. So yeah, I will put this bit of carbon fibre in there, but I will also be putting some more in there too. So where do we go from here? The first thing which we need to do is probably glue it up, but also we need to get our servos ready. So let me go and get these open. Now I'm using Tower Pro MG90S servos. Now I'm sure you would have seen me mention and rave about these on my YouTube channel for my other models. If you look around you, actually that's an exception, they've got some Coronas in. Those have got the Tower Pro servos, and that my slope saw wing's got Tower Pro. My Zac Speed's got Tower Pro. What else is around there? Yeah, I used the Tower Pro in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 models which I can see around my office. So yeah, happy days. Tower Pro servos, really good. They cost about £1.80, and you get 6 for that one. About £1.80 each, so whatever that is times 6. You can buy them in packs of 2s, 4s and 6s, and they're absolutely brilliant. So we need to get those centered up and ready. Now, I wouldn't suggest using the, well, you could do, it depends what you've got spare in short, is that you could go on and use a smaller servo, and to be honest, you would get a little bit of weight advantage with these, but in my case, I've got these available. I'm not really a fan of plastic geared servos at all, and I'd rather use those ones. Yeah, well, in fact, these Tower Pro servos are cheaper than the cheap Hobby King plastic ones, so let's be fair on that. Now, for the motor mount, I would normally need those the servo screws, because that's all I'm going to use to fix the motor to the plate on the back. But in your case, so in my case, I've already got some of those ready, so I'm going to pop those on the floor out of the way. And you'll notice that I've got the servo screw there waiting too. Let's get the other servo out, like so, and open her up. Brilliant. I'm just stretching the cable out gently just to straighten it a touch. Right, I want the screw, which is in the middle. Come on, out you pop. There we go, that popped out. And I want the two single horns like that. Okay, that's the ones which I'm after. Let's put those down in the bin. well, on the floor anyway. And let's put those to one side now. I'll also put a link to a servo tester for you in the video description. They all pretty much work in the same way, and you just stab them in, wire them up. Now a little tip for you is, I just managed to get them both on the wrong way around. You may be wondering, Matt, why are you listening to your servos? In short, if you've got a dodgy gear in there, and why did I put my fingers on top of the servos to put them underneath strain? And that was just to see how they react. I've only had one of these servos go duff on me out of like 40, but a little bit of paranoia always pays dividends, because it's better that you check them on your desk, and I've just hit the center button on them so I know they're both centered. Is the little bit of paranoia beforehand is always a good idea, because it saves you headache later. There's nothing like having a you go and dig a servo in and then glue it in and then have to get it back out because it's broken, or it's broken or dead on arrival, for example. So these servos are bigger than the standard ones, well, the holes which we've got in here, so you should be able to see that on the iPad. So all I'm going to do is pop the servo in there, get in there with a knife, and yeah, we only need a tiny bit extra cutting off. So let's get that in there. Just need to trim a little bit extra out, like so. And I'm pretty sure the depth is going to be off as well. So let me just see how deep that is. I'm just using my knife, and I can see from the knife is that it's right up to that edge, and I can also see that I need to dig down in there. Now, naughty Matt, I didn't put a fresh blade on. So yeah, don't skimp using these craft knife blades. They're super cheap, so don't try and struggle on and use a blunt one, because if you've got spares available, get on and use a brand new one. It will make a much better building experience, and you're not going to end up breaking the foam everywhere. So yeah, let's get in there. I go straight down, and that's why I'm working on a bit of plywood here, is because then I can cut right through to the bottom of the desk, and I don't have to worry about that. Oh, it's my nice desk. It really doesn't matter, because it's just a bit of plywood. So I've just pushed that through and poked it out the bottom. There we go, that's clean enough. And while I'm here, I'll do the same on the opposite one. So I'm coming up towards the front of the model a touch, cutting across, and then I'm going to cut out the whole servo area, like so. Let's pull that bit out. Let's get right in there. Let's poke that out. So happy days, just push that out, and that's the hole which we've got on the bottom, which I think you can see there on the iPad. Brilliant. Okay, servos. That should fit. That should fit. Now we need to get the control horns on, and I can see the screws there, so I'm just going to get that one lined up. Now, a little tip for you, I'm using some threadlock. Now, there's two types of threadlock or Locktite available. You've got blue and you've got red. You really do not want the red stuff. And the reason why you don't want the red stuff, and I'm just giving it a little, I see that on there, is that I'm just giving it a little dab of the blue stuff to make sure that that servo, or that screw on top of that servo, never comes undone again. Okay, and you'll hear that I did actually move that, what should we call it then, and I'm just putting them on at 90 degrees, and you'll always end up having to trim these, so as close as possible. So don't panic if it's like one notch out compared to the other servo. Hey, that's just the way it is, and you just trim it out when you go to flyer, in short. Brilliant. So that's the two servos ready, and I'm going to put those off to one side. Next up, we need to glue them up. Now, I will just be using hot glue, and like I said, this little hot glue gun is absolutely amazeballs. And a little tip for you, I've just put a bit of hot glue on the back of the next one, so that I'm going to need quite a lot of hot glue in a moment, and that way I've got extra glue waiting on the end. Now I also need to make sure that I've got a flat desk, like so, which I do, and I just want to just eye these up, just make sure they really do fit together well, because I will be needing to hold it in one place. Now because we are using the hot glue, and we're not using another glue such as CA or Goop or Pour or Zap Goo, which take a little bit longer to go off, is that what you could use is that just use some of these pins, and I'll just put a pin up there on the camera. It comes in, there we go, like that. And then once you've glued it, you can just use pins just to hold it still. Okay, little tip for you. But because we're using hot glue, it will go off in a few moments. So let's go, and I'm not going to hold back on the glue. I'm going to get a nice little bead all the way around. This is why I love this little hot glue gun, because it allows you to be super accurate, and it does chuck out a hell of a lot of glue, to be fair to it. So let's put the glue gun to one side, quickly turn it off, and I'm just lining it up and just giving it a little wiggle, like so, to make sure there is a really good fit on there. And I've probably just glued this to the desk. So maybe that's a little tip for you when you glue two wings together with hot glue, is make sure that you put a bit of paper underneath. So if you do glue your wing to the desk, you don't actually glue it to the desk, you glue it to a piece of paper instead. So we're just going to leave that a little bit longer to go off. Right, next up I will be putting the carbon rod in underneath, and I also need to, I just need to hold that for a little bit longer. I can still see that it's trying to ooze out there, and I'm just wiping the excess off with my finger. That's the thing with these, you just hold it for as long as it needs. And remember, foam is a very, very good insulator. So hot glue going in it, and if it's quite hot, is going to be hot for a while, because it will stay warm, because the foam is not conducting any of the heat. So yeah, right. Yeah, that feels sturdy. Next thing, let's go and bend these ailerons around. Now, the one thing which I do really, really like about these rainbow wings is the ailerons have got the best join on them, or the toughest join, which I've seen for an EPP model by a country mile. And you'll see that's why I was going straight in there and really giving it a bend. Now, a little tip for you, I won't be doing it during this build, but I will be doing it after. Is that with this carbon fibre rod, which you can buy 5 pieces for about £3 or less, it's 50 centimetres long, which is like 19 or 20 inches, is that a little tip for you is that embedding that down the back of the aileron, or the elevon, will help this whole aileron move together uniformly. Otherwise, that I noticed on the other one is that you'd pull up here, but this side would flex down a little bit. That's why I'm going in there, and I'm really, really folding that up, because I'd like a really good seam on there. And obviously on yours, do go a little bit careful. It's only because I've had some experience with my other one, and I know that that join is very, very, very good on these models. Brilliant. Right, carbon fibre. Now, you could, of course, use a collection of glues. There is no right or wrong really when it comes to glue. Just use the glue which you know best. Now I am here looking for a sanding pad, which is just down there, and I know this is carbon fibre because I tested this in the unboxing video, which I did a week or two back. So I'm just going to give it a scuff, so there's a nice key on there, and I'm going to wipe the mess off that. Now, did somebody forget or go and turn the hot glue gun off? Yeah, he did. So yeah, shock horror, I'm actually going to use hot glue for this, and there's a very good reason why I'm only going to use hot glue for this, and you'll find out why in a few moments time. So I'm just going to clean out that ridge in there. And just offer this one up just to make sure it really does fit in there, which it does really well because it didn't want to come back out again. Yeah, and they're both the same length. Brilliant. So has that got, yeah, that's still got loads of temperature left in it. Now, given the choice, I would probably choose Goop or Yoo-Hoo Port or even Zap Goo for this, but I'm after a speed build here, so I'm going to be using hot glue, and you'll find out why this really does not matter in a few moments time when we go and put a mod on her, which will make it much more responsive and robust model. So there's our hot glue in. Just going to poke that in there, and remember, carbon fiber really does conduct, number one, electricity, but also it does conduct heat very, very quickly. So yeah, you need to be quick with that. So that's that piece in. Now, is that servo line up there for that carbon fiber? I don't feel it is. So I'll tell you what, they've given us two pieces, and I'm going to use the second piece just above. So I'm just going to line that up by eye, get the knife in, just drag it through, try and cut straight. And see, like other people would have edited that bit out. I'm leaving it in because it's real. We've been given an extra bit of carbon fiber, so hey, let's go and use this. Now, I need to make that hole a little bit bigger, so I'm just going to pull the screwdriver through. I need to scuff the carbon fiber up, like so. Now, where's that cut to? There. So I'm just going to get the hot glue gun in there, which that second join with the tip of pushing that in there really did not work very well. So I'm just poking it in there, like so, really getting the gun down in the end, right? And then I've got to go quickly. And you notice I just dumped the gun, and that bloody glue is really hot. Yeah. Cool. Come on, Matt. Get that in there. There we go. That's in. And that glue was ridiculously hot then. So do mind your fingers, and I've got glue string everywhere now. This stuff. Yeah, this glue, these little smaller glue sticks which I've been and bought, which are like 1 million of them for about £6 off eBay. It's really, really strong glue. It's completely different to the other stuff which I'm using in my bigger glue gun. And I can see there's a bit of a hole there, so I'm just going to fill it up with hot glue. And by the way, hot glue would be absolutely fine. It just don't leave it in the car on a hot summer's day, because it will melt. Remember, it's called hot glue, and it will remelt. Okay, so if you're in a very hot climate, or likely to be leaving it in a car for a long period of time, then do not use hot glue. Instead, use maybe CA, for example, or Goop, or Yoo-Hoo Port Zap glue, or whatever glue you like. Okay, but don't use hot glue for it. So that's really stiffened her up. Next up is servos. So let's go and get these in. Now, I am electing to put them in this way round. Now, if I was perhaps a how do I phrase this for you? Is that I'm going to go with the defaults here, and remember, I'm replacing the one which I bought out of my own money because I've absolutely mullered it, and this one is going to be my model. Now, to be honest, the servos would be better off further out the wing. Okay. Now I'm going to leave that as a decision for you to make with your model. Okay, is that it would be better if these servos were out further down the wing, because you would end up with more control authority on the elevons. Okay, but in my case, I'm just going to go and get these in because I'd really like to get her out and get her flying. Okay, so hot glue gun back on, and all I'm going to do, dose of glue down each side, down the back, and I'm just going to give a little dab underneath each of the servo tabs, and that's all it needs. So when it goes in, it will end up spreading it all the way up, and then it will squidge underneath the servo tabs. Brilliant, that's gone in there really nicely. I'm just going to wipe that with my finger. Brilliant, that's in there. I don't need to do anything more. Well, probably need to bring that servo cable around a touch, but hey ho. And now I'm just going to poke that servo cable down the little groove which they've been and provided us, like so. Yeah, it's about the perfect height. Brilliant, nice one, guys. On to the next one. Same again. I'll see if I can get this on the iPad for you. A little dose underneath the tab on either side, tab down the side, tab down the back, and a little dab there and a little dab there. Brilliant. And you'll also notice that I've been and got these with the servo horns pointing outwards. Okay, so towards the edge of the wing, and that's on purpose so that we're moving a little bit further up on the elevon. Okay, but like I said, if I had more time, and I've unfortunately I'm on a time limit today of about an hour, so I've got to get this one done, and I'd like to get out later. Given more time, okay, I would strongly suggest that what you do is take a ruler and then mark out further down the wing and get your servos out there. It's because it will give you more authority. And like I said earlier, later on what I will be doing is just cutting a seam all the way down the back of the elevon and putting one of these carbon fibres rods in each of the actual elevons, just to give them a little bit more authority. So let's make sure that's turned off and move that out of the way. Brilliant. This is going nice and quickly. Happy days. Next thing on our list is that we need to go and build our little motor mount and other pieces. So what have we got on here? Let's go and poke some of these out, like so. One piece. Oh, this thing does come with a tail skid, but to be frankly honest, I just won't be using it. So that is a skid which is supposed to go up underneath there, but like I said, frankly honest, I won't be using it, so I'm going to chop that to one side. And what we got here, that looks like the lid, like so, and that looks like the motor mount. Right, so let's build these up quickly. We've got two sides, we got a motor mount, which I'm assuming that's supposed to go in there, he says. I got that the right way up. Like I said, I'm just going to leave all this in here. It's just this video is going to be pretty much unedited between, obviously between switching between the two camera angles. Is that, that does go in. It just needs a little bit of persuasion. And I can also tell you is that what I'm actually thinking is that we got some spare plywood here, and I'm actually thinking that if I quickly cut that out with the Dremel, I could double reinforce that on the back. That's what my instinct's telling me to do, and if I'm thinking it, then to be honest, it's probably an idea to be going doing it. That's not going in, so where's my craft knife? So I'm just going to trim out the insides so you can see that on there. I'm just trimming that out a touch just to make it fit a little bit more nicely. And yeah, that made it fit. Happy days. And I'm guessing that little hole at the bottom is for us to wrap our motor wires underneath, which is, I've still got glue on my hand, which is a pretty cool idea. So that then goes on there. Now I tell you what, I am wondering is my 2S battery going to be too big for this mount? I think it is. just get that mounted up like so. I can already, yeah, look at that. I reckon it's going to be one hell of a... Like I said, I'll leave these edits in. I've put it at the wrong way round. So on your model, make sure you put these pieces at the right way round. And I need to trim out that side a little bit better, just like I had to do on the other side. Just trim that up. Brilliant. And apologies, that would have made a lovely noise on the microphone. So, yeah, there we go. 1S. Yeah. As we can see, that, oh wow, that is a really, really nice snug fit for that that 2S battery, which I'm going to be using. And that doesn't look too bad. Going to turn the hot glue gun back on again. Yeah, that's all right. And yeah, given more time, I'd use a bit of CA. But frankly, I think just for ease, I'm just going to use a bit of hot glue. Because I used it on, and you may be thinking, shock horror, oh my god, the hot glue is not the best in the world, Matt. Oh, it's going to fall apart on you. But to be honest, the other one, it withstood, ooh, I don't know, one absolutely massive impact, which is how I did the nose and broke the two bendy bits on the front. And it also did pretty damn well when I stuffed it on the bank when we were flying on the slope. I don't know, at least a dozen smashes, which is not bad for me, to be honest. Yeah, so just a little bit of hot glue, forcing that in. Yeah, wow, that's already stiffened up already. Happy days. So let's just go and make sure that those line up. Let me put that on the camera for you. So you see there, that's the layout which I've been and got. We will be tucking the receiver at the back along with the speed controller. Or what we could also be doing is tucking the speed controller underneath there, a little bit of Velcro on the top, and then putting the receiver on the top. That either way would work. Again, I'll just be using a cheapo, and actually this was meant for, I think it was meant for a quadcopter. It's just a 20 amp Afro ESC. The motor which I'll be using is a Emax. Let me put this on the other camera for you. It is an Emax CF. Spin that round. CF 2805. Okay, it will spin a 5 to 6 inch prop, and I believe it's a 2840 kV, something like that. Super cheap. I don't know, 6-9 quid, something like that. Yeah, just super cheap. So, right, I need to quickly line that up on there. So there's my marker, and I'm just going to go and give her a quick whiz round with some hot glue. And thinking about it, in hindsight, it may have been a better idea to mount the motor mount on the back first, but it's too late. Hot glue down, and we're ready to go. There we go, that's in. Just going to wipe up the edges a touch. Happy days. I am just going to give the inside a quick little lining of hot glue. Let me see if I can put this on the iPad for you. I'm just getting in there and doing along the bottom, and I'm going to do along that edge as well, just to give her a little bit of extra strength as well. And yeah, what we added, a gram of hot glue or whatever, it doesn't matter that much really in the scheme of things. So there's our body piece done. Let's get rid of the rubbish. Get our desk cleaned again. Right. I tell you what, I'm already thinking I need to mount the motor on the back, and I'm also thinking, what am I thinking? I've got the motor to connect on there, and I also need to make sure we've got the right orientation of the motor, and I don't like the idea of putting the cables underneath there, just in case I need to swap them over. For example, I've got the speed controller around the wrong way round, and I need to swap the leads around. So I tell you what I'm going to go and do is take this approach. I am going to poke the speed controller connectors out the side, like so. That then gives us, that allows us to get the speed controller back, and I'm going to run the servo lead for the speed controller back to the receiver, and I'm actually going to do that. I'm going to have it so the battery pokes out the front like that, and then the lead comes back over the top like so, and then we'll have the speed controller tucked up underneath, which I can access if I need to at a later date, and plus I can poke those motor wires up and around as well. So that's the plan. Brilliant. Let's get those poked around like that, and we also need the servo wires to come up. Well, actually we probably need to line this up on the model first, and we also need to mount that motor too. So do I have a pen on my desk? If you can see a pen on my desk, please let me know, because I can't see it. Just in a Sharpie, that will do. Okay, so all I'm doing is just lining this up by eye, which you can just about make up on the iPad. Okay, so I'm just lining this up by eye. That looks like it's in the middle, like so. I'm just going to mark it with the Sharpie, like so. In fact, it would probably be a lot easier if I just got in there and stabbed her with the knife right now. So that's where we want her, and I'm going to do the same on this side as well. Just give her a little dig down, like so. Give that little dig as well, and happy days. So yeah, we got the cuts there, and I'm just going to use the screwdriver to make the holes a little bit bigger. Crude, yet very, I've just found the other one. Very crude, yet very, very effective. There we go. Right, that's going. Now before I go in, well, I'll tell you what, let's go and make sure that these actually fit down in those holes. There we go. That probably is really rocking that iPad over to my right, and like I said, I'll leave my mistakes in. There was I trying to trap the motor cable up underneath the front. Right. Just really making sure that's in there, so when I come back in a minute with the hot glue gun, I now know that those holes are in, and we've got plenty of depth in there for that to get glued down. Brilliant. I'm also just going to quickly sanity check that I can squeeze that battery in there, which unfortunately, and again this really does depend on the batteries which you are using, is that my battery is obviously too big. So what I'm going to go and do is, number one, I need to bring up a hole. In fact, I'm going to use the Sharpie for this. I need to bring that battery back quite far, but I also need to get that up, the actual cable out as well. And I don't have that plug's just too big, so I am going to drag that back at least to there. So I need to quickly cut out a slot like so, and this is my arrangement. Obviously if you've got a smaller 2S battery, then you won't need to do this. I'm just using the batteries which I have and the batteries which I will be using on my model. Now also, to be fair, this battery is way too big, so I am going to need to trim out, because it's not going to go underneath that front piece there. without pushing that up. So I do need, shock horror, to trim out a bit of that nose. And yeah, I'll tell you what, I've got a special tool for doing this. Now you could just go on and use a, whatchamacallit, a knife, and you could trim it out. I'm just going to go for speed, because like I said, I'm short on time today. And let me grab that one, and that one. And apologies, I'm going to have to do this off camera. And all it is a soldering iron, but a special one because it's got a long nib on it. And a big hat tip to Pat, actually. He got me onto using one of these, and they are really, really cool. And all we're going to do is just melt the plastic, the foam back a touch, just so we get an extra bit of depth in there for the battery to sink in where we need it. And yes, in an ideal world, you should really be doing this outside. I'm almost done. Almost there. And like I said, I'm not going to edit any of this out. It really is the time, whatever length this video is the time which it took me to make it and get it into a flyable condition. And happy days. Right, so I've just used a hot glue gun, and I'll put that over there just to trim out this to get rid of most of the depth in there. Okay, now I did notice when I just fit that battery, when I went to just test fit that battery in there, so some of these edges are not great, so I'm now going to just go and quickly clean that up with the craft knife and get that out of the way. And obviously if you use one of those soldering irons to dig it out, do go careful, because they really do get hot, and that plastic is still melted in there. They're sticking to my hand. I've made my own rainbow with the rainbow, if that makes sense. It's quite a colourful mess I've made in the middle of that. So let's get that in there. Will that fit nicely? Short answer, yes, and that's back far enough. Now, like I said, this will really depend upon the batteries which you are using. Obviously, if you've got a smaller battery, you won't need to do this, but I've got loads of these 1000 zippers, so that's the reason why I'm hacking my nose up a bit. It's because I know that I've got loads of them, and these are the same batteries which I use in the bonsai. So I know what it's like. I'll go and do a flight in the bonsai, put that down, go and get another battery out, and then do a flight with this one, and then put that one down, and then go and get another one, and then swap back into the bonsai. Because that's what I've been doing with it right now, well, until I gave it that nose job. So, happy days. Right. So I'm just going to quickly test fit. Oh, I need to cut that top out. Safety glasses are here somewhere, he says. Like I said, I'm just leaving it as it is, and I'm sure it's the same for you in your workshop. How many times have you gone running around trying to find something and it's not where you left it last? And I can't even see what I did with the Dremel. I know I had it out there earlier. Found the safety glasses, found the Dremel. Brilliant. Like I said, you probably won't need to do this on yours because you're most likely got smaller batteries, and I can't see for squat in here. Definitely put my safety glasses on. Brilliant. That's just enough for that cable to go up now. That's the craft knife. Dirty hack tool, those things. Dirty. Brilliant though. I mean, very, very, very handy. Just cleaning that up. I did chip it a little bit, so I think a marker pen won't sort out, will it? Brilliant. Let's get that poked up. And yeah, can you see what I mean about now? Having that for the lead to go back up there out the way. Happy days. So will that fit in there? And I know I'm crushing the cables at the back. I'll sort those out when I get around to gluing it. That's fitting in there nicely. And for my battery, yeah, nice. And I know that kind of layout already works for my other one. So I may need to pull the battery forward a touch, but I don't even really need to use any Velcro in there because it's being so tightly held on the nose piece. Brilliant. Now it's time for us to progress onto the motor. So we need to get that mounted up. And yeah, to be frankly honest, if I had more time and less glue on my hands, is that what I would do is that some of the excess plywood which we received is that I would make, no, actually screw it, I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to go and make an extra plate on the back because it will only take a few seconds for us to do it. We got the dirty hack tool, Dremel, down there. I'm looking for the set square. So I'm just going to, actually that stuff's pretty thin. I wonder if I can just do it straight off the cuff with the craft knife. No, I can already tell you this is really boring, and dirty hack Dremel would have been a far superior choice because we would have been through it by now. Oh. And apologies, I'm more focused on just getting this cut. All I'm doing is just going back over and doing repetitive cuts on it. I always remember my, going way off topic, I always remember my brother saying, how do you eat an elephant? I was like, you think, oh my god, elephant, that's just a huge great big animal. How on earth well, where would you start? And his point was very simple. You with a spoon and just take one mouthful at a time and go from there. I thought that was really good advice. Anyway, you may have heard of that one before. You may not have, but yeah, just a little, even if it looks like a big project, actually the irony is that it's all baby steps. I've just made a right hash of that, so I'm going to switch over to a ruler because I got the end line right. I screwed up the other piece. In fact, I need to draw it back the other way. Oh, and these things, by the way, in the air, they're such good fun. With my original one, because I was running it with 3S, and I only just got round to flying it with 2S, because once I found its limits, is that if it's overloaded or you put too much weight on her, is that she really does sag her butt, okay? So as you're flying her, and if you go up into a loop, and then turn her, and then bring her down like that, is that if you run it with 3S, it's just too much weight for the airframe, and it really does sag its butt. But the second you run her with, let me turn that back on again, is that the second you run her with 2S, the power and the weight ratio seems to be a lot better, and yeah, much better, much. And I've just missed a daft point. We had 110, our C of G was 110 from the front. So I'm just going to measure that up, which is right on that line there. I'm pretty sure it said 110. And I'm sure you would be screaming at me that, yes, it is 110 millimeters. So that's 11 centimeters there, which is right on that line there. So a little tip for you, if this glue's going to hurry up and melt, is that if I show this on the iPad, what I'm going to do is just put a little dab of hot glue to make little like little dimples on here. So when you've got the model up that way round, is that you can immediately feel where the little nodules are, and then that then means that you can work out the CFG very, very quickly on the flight line. So you know that you need to stuff the battery back a bit or pull the battery forwards a touch. So that is on. Come on. Ever the impatient. Right, so obviously I can do this on the camera for you. So I know that that crossbar member there is where we've got the CFG. So I'm looking straight down there, and I'm just going to put a blob on the CFG line. Just there. So I've now got two blobs. I've got one blob just there, and I've got another blob just there. Okay, so imagine later on when you got it this way around, I'm not going to do it now because the glue's still wet or still liquid, is that you can then put your fingers on there and you know where the CFG is. Now where's that extra bit of wood which I cut out? And typical, I've cut it too big, which is way better than it being too small. Let's go and trim a little bit of that off. And to be honest, the back motor would have probably been fine, but we're here. We've got the bit of wood. And it's easier to do it now rather than later on. So DW hobby, if you're watching this video, including a second piece for the motor mount would be suggested. Because I also know Michael, one of the subscribers on the YouTube channel, he made a whole new centre section for his, which fair dues to him. I'm doing that, so I'm not holding back. Lots of glue. Do that. You can see how much glue I'm going on there. Stop. Get that in. Just hold it there for a moment. In fact, I can see there's space for even more glue down the side. And because I'm going to be using the servo screws to mount the motor in a moment, I know that they're going to go through both pieces of this plywood. So yeah, that's happy days. Right, while that's setting, oh, massive tip for you, okay? And I can say it's a massive tip, and I'm just trying to find the other screw which I had. Massive tip, and I'll put this up on the iPad for you, is that with the motor which I've selected, it's got one of these back plates. Now, you'll notice that I've got the, make sure this is in focus for you, there, I've got the grub screw pointing downwards and upwards. If you put it side to side, it's a pain in the rear to get to, whereas if it's pointing up and down, because we've got lots of access there, it does make things an awful lot easier. So brilliant. Next thing I need is a drill, and I need a 1.5 millimeter bit, which is the most horrible bit which I've got in the box, I think. Aha! I see it. There's the clean one. Now I did have some other drill bits arrive the other day in the mail, but only some of the larger sizes have managed to migrate their way to the toolbox. So brilliant. So I'm just going to hold that upright, make sure that those things are pointing up and down, which they are. I'm also just trying to get it in the middle as well. Brilliant. That is in the middle now. think that drill's battery's on its way out. So I'm just going to poke that in now. I'm not using any glue or anything like that. Again, if you're a little bit paranoid, just stick a bit of CA glue on your screw thread, okay? And another little tip for you, I've just drilled that in there, but there's a very good reason why I've just put one in and I've screwed only one in. The reason being is that now holding that mount still, so I can then get on my desk and line up the other ones, and I'm obviously going careful not to push all the way through, so that I then don't go and stab the speed controller down the back. And let's go and get that drill out of the way. So put that on the camera. So you see I've got one in and I screwed that one in, and then that, because that was then holding that still, I was then able to then go on around and put the screws in round the back. So I've got 2 screws there. I'm just looking on the floor to see what I did with the bags of servo screws, which I threw away a few moments ago. And by the way, these servo screws, I've never had one pull out on me, ever. And I'll tell you what, there will be an edit in this video because I can hear somebody outside my office. Right, I'm back. They're only literally just down there. Right, let's get that in there. Hex key. Right, I'm just going to hold the motor wires round to the side, and then I'll end up pulling them back through before I go any further. Now, you'll notice I got a propeller on there. She will be coming off. Okay, and the reason for that is pure safety. Excuse me. Also, these little Emax motors, they come with those crap prop adapters. Now, I fly a lot of flying wings and I've never broken a propeller, okay? Well, at least from normal landings, put it that way. So the little prop adapter which you get with this motor is absolutely rubbish, and instead I'll put a link to this little proper prop adapter. And yeah, it does add a little bit more weight, but, well, no, in fact, it probably weighs less than the ones with the great big screws in either side. But yeah, they're absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And yeah, you don't need a prop saver on a pusher at all. So let's go and get these wired up in there. So I'm just going to poke those in. Brilliant. Now we're on to the electronics. We're getting on the home run. Receiver is just there. Now I am using because I use FR Sky with my Tyrannus, I'm using the VAR42s. These cost about 11, 12, 13 pounds, something like that. So sub, I don't know, like $15 US. And all I'm after is to make sure that that motor is spinning the right direction. So if we look at the propeller, and you probably won't be able to see this on the camera, is literally right, my finger's in the way, we can see some letters, okay? Now it doesn't, I hope that's showing on the iPad for you. In short, we always put the letters to the front of the model. So if this was a pusher model, letters always to the front. If it was a normal like tractor model, we always put the numbers to the front, and the same if it's on the back. The numbers and letters always point to the front. So with this propeller which I've got, it's got to spin anti-clockwise as we look at it, okay? And the reason why just to chop that, so that's chopping the air and then pushing the air backwards. And the reason why I'm just checking that is because I don't want to turn this on in my hand. Well, I could turn it on my hand, so it would be relatively safe, but it's not the safest thing to do. All we need to do is make sure she is spinning anti-clockwise, and that's based upon the propeller which I've got in my hand. Yours may spin the other way, especially if you're like me and are recycling a spare quadcopter blade. Now I've got a battery. What am I missing? I'm missing a Tyrannus. Now because there's so many different types of transmitters out there,
Tyrannus, engine off, metal rates.
And because there's so many different transmitters and receivers, I'm not going to go through the actual setup for these. all I'm actually going to go and do is that
Engine off. Metal rates.
I'm going to copy one of my other flying wings. Okay, as simple as that. And I'm going to go and select the model.
Engine off. Metal rates.
And I'll put a YouTube video up about those rates and the engine off sound in there. I don't know if you can see this on my screen. I don't know how well that's coming out for you. Probably not very well. I probably do need to rename it, but for now that should be good enough for us to go and put some power into this motor. Right, Raven. Oh, there it goes. Spinning connected. I can see a green light on there.
Engines armed.
And the motor's spinning the wrong way.
Engine off.
Brilliant. That's all I wanted to know. Was it spinning the right or the wrong way? And because it is spinning the wrong way, we unplug one of these, two of these, and then swap the leads around on it. And it's simple as that. And now the motor will spin the opposite way. And just to make the point, I'll plug that back in. Oops. Should have really...
To Tyrannus. Engine off. Metal rates. Engines armed.
And it's now spinning the right way. Brilliant.
Engine off.
What you could also do while you're here, if you're using a brand new speed controller, and obviously it's easier to do once you've gotten the model with the propeller off, but I'm quite comfortable with this being on the desk down here, if you can see that okay, is that being down, I'm going to put the throttle
Engines armed.
on full, waiting for the beeps, which I think it already did beep. Pull the throttle down. There you go. Did you hear that? It might have been very quiet in there, but that would have then been on and calibrated the ESC. So happy days. And again, another reason for me to avoid the setup for the receiver and stuff is because the mixing really does depend upon your transmitter. Some of you may just have a switch on the side, which you turn on delta mixing. With the Tyrannus, you need to mix in some of your elevator with your ailerons. Yeah, it really does vary from one model to the other. So I am now getting prepared to glue this motor mount down. So that off, hot glue back on, like so. And I'm just going to poke these wires up inside. Now, if you were super paranoid, is that you could then go on and just put a bit of tape around these connectors. But in my case, I think they're going to be pretty safe underneath there, so let's get those in there. Like so. Brilliant. There we go. So that's what we're going to have underneath. We've got our lead coming out for our speed controller. When we go to glue this down, we do need to go careful because we also, before we glue it down, we need to remember to pull the servo leads out as well. Alright, so now that I've been instead of doing that, I better go and do it, haven't I? Oh, and that glue's set on the bottom now, so it feels much better. So let's go and get these servo leads out of the side hole. And remember, we can stuff these leads back in the hole afterwards, but right now we need them up, out of the way. That's me trying to hold those in there. It's proven to be tougher than it looks. Come on! That was tricky. That was probably the easiest thing to do. Right, there we go. Pull those servo leads up out of the way. Make sure those cables are up underneath. Again, I'm just test fitting for sanity on here, and I think what I'm also going to do is that when I put the glue in, and I need to pull that cable up out of the way, and you can see why I made that recess now on the top, is that that's recessed lovely, and of course I can then connect my battery up on the top as well. Okay, and again, that's unique to me because of the size of the battery which I'm using. And you probably should be using a smaller size battery. I'm just not. I've got enough batteries. I didn't really need to buy any more. So that's my view on that matter. So I'm just gonna Oh, get some hot glue in here. Now I need to... I'm just pushing it down in the holes. Apologies if you can't see this, because I do need to go kind of quickly because I've got both sides to get done. Go! More glue. And I also noticed I don't have that much glue stick left. So when you're doing this, make sure that you've got plenty of glue stick. Because I didn't, and I had to have a bit of a panic. So please learn from my mistakes. And trust me, I make lots of mistakes. But if I can learn from them, and if you can learn from them, happy days. Right, so that's all being held in position. I don't know if you can even see that on the camera. Well, you'll be able to see it on that one, that's for sure. But the iPad, probably not. And I'm just holding it down to make sure it's in still, which it is. And while I'm here, I'm just going to poke that servo cable down a touch as well. And I can't believe I've got this far and I've not swore. Happy days. Let's not fuck it up now. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Right, I've got managed to get the servo lead stuck to that. Brilliant. And I'm just going to run a bead of glue all the way along the edge. On that, I can take that battery out now. All the way along that edge. Just to make sure it's really stuck in there. Now, I'll be frankly honest, on that opposite side, I haven't done the best job. Okay, it is hanging up a touch. But to be honest, it's not really going to affect the flight characteristics. 1 iota. Brilliant. And you'll notice again with this little hot glue gun, I'm able to get right in there, right up in there, and give it a little dose of hot glue. Happy days. And by the way, I was absolutely shocked how robust this hot glue is. On my other one, and to be honest, I'm not going to publish the build video for the other one, but yeah, I remember saying about using hot glue, and I'm just sat here holding it still for a moment, is that I've never used it in a model before, but look at the abuse I gave that one. And I gave it a lot of abuse, and that reminds me I need to talk to you about that plate in a moment. And yeah, the hot glue was perfectly fine. In fact, my Raven wing down there, yeah, it was the Raven wing. I just used hot glue for in the middle. Now I am just gonna straighten this edge up in here while I'm at it, just to make it a little bit easier to get the battery in and out. I'm just gonna dig that out with a knife. And by the way, I like I said, I'm just, you know why I'm doing this, because I'm just want to reuse the batteries which I've got. So that's enough on the matter. Just trim that in there. Happy days. There we go. Brilliant. So that's in there nice and tight. We've got two servo leads. We need a bit of Velcro. And the reason why we need a bit of Velcro, because we need to stick down wherever my Velcro has gone. There it is. It's hiding. I'm going to stick the receiver on the top. Up out the way. Oh, you can see I cut that nice and straight last time I was using it. Not! We don't need that much to hold that tiny little receiver down. Oh, and that little receiver is rated up to 1 kilometre. And if you think about 1 kilometre, that's actually quite a fair distance, to be fair. And it works ridiculously well. I did a video and I had about 6 of them here, and I've used up a load of them. And yeah, they're great little receivers. Now, to be frankly honest, I've forgotten which wire's which. So We'll just wire it up and see. Ah, no, we're not just going to wire it up and see what happens, because one of those is the what thingy lead, the ESC lead, and of course if that's sat on middle throttle. It is the shorter one, that one now. So I've just pulled it back out the other way, and yeah, don't just jam them in willy-nilly. That would not lead to good things. So, complete with hot glue on that one. Like so. Go and grab that one. Brilliant. Sit that on the top, and then we've just got a case we need to, that cable's already in there, and then our servo wires we can cram in. Now obviously this really does depend on your receiver and the setup which you're going for. You may have a smaller receiver, you may have a slightly bigger receiver, you may elect to put the speed controller on the top, you may elect to just do a different arrangement, and that's up to you. You may want that round that way round, you don't want it horizontal. Actually, maybe I agree with you, maybe it would be better if it was that way around. No, I'm having mine that way round. That's fine. And you may want to put yours on the side and not on the top. It's your model, your decisions for that. Brilliant. We've made really, really good headway now. And I need to tuck the ESC wire up underneath. Just go and poke that battery in there. Right, we're on the home run. Two things for us to do. We need to get these built up. And what was the other thing which we need to do? Oh yeah, lose the carbon rod, which they provided, and the heat shrink. And what's the other thing which we need to do? Oh, stick the winglets on. Yeah, almost there. Right. Remember those thingies which I said I didn't like for the, what should we call it? If I can spit my words out. Control horns. I really didn't like the ones which they provided, and I'm going to be using some of my own out of my stash down here. If I remember correctly, I've got two different types. And but I'll put links to both of these two different types for you, and I'll give you a heads up because you may like one of these over the other one, whereas I use those. Actually, no, screw it. Let's just use these. And I'll put those on the camera for you. And they come with a little push rod and a little screw as well. So yeah, happy days. I want two of those. And to be honest, I'm not after the push horn. I'm after that piece. So we'll stick that in the filing cabinet. And these were super cheap. They like a couple of quid for 10 or 20, something like that. And yeah, way better than what you've seen from the crappy little horns which we had a few minutes ago. Oh damn it, second swear word. Oh well. Right, anyway, what are we doing here? I am just using a ruler to line up visually where that control horn should go, and that feels kind of about right. So I've just drawn on my model. And to be frankly honest, I would happily draw on my model any day of the week if it means that we get the stuff in the right place. So for me, that's 4.5 centimeters out from the inside edge. Now obviously that may differ for your model, okay? So do check this accordingly with yours, but the thing is that we do want them in the same place. And again, I'm just eyeballing up with the end of the servo out to the elevon, like so. That's what we're going for. Right, let's break that off. Now with these control horns, and let me just go and pick this iPad up so I can show you. Okay, if I lay that down there, okay, the idea is that you have the holes on the control horn running right along that crease. So where that control horn is set, that's where we want to go down inside the motor, inside the yellow bond. Okay. And let me move that round and try not to tip it off the desk. So that's the plan. So we want it in 90 degrees and again aiming back towards the thingy, and we want the holes to line up perfectly on the join, which is about there. So we're going to give that a stab. It's too late, I've stabbed it. Just jam that in. So that, yeah, it's near as damn it on top of there. Now I need to put those two little bits to one side because I've lost one of those before and it's quite frustrating. I'm just eyeing up between the two actually, where I need to be putting that hole in. Pretty much exactly the same. Happy days, and sorry for the noise. Right, let's go and get these glued in. Or do we glue them in? What have they given us? They've given us 2, 3. Ah, right. That's going to be fun. That's going to be fun. I should probably show you the right way of doing this because my way is going to be slightly different to what other people would do. And by the way, what I would normally do is stick a little connector on the back of here. You know, one of the little ones which you can put a screw in it and make it fully adjustable. But in my case, I'm not going to do that. So let me just turn my
Switch warning. Engines armed. Middle rates. Trim center. Trim center.
There you go. So I've put my servos in the center.
Engine off.
Engine off. Oh, look at that one. Oh, hang on. Yeah, they're both slightly out, but we'll work with it. Right. So that's done. That's now been set. That makes the next part easy. What do I need to be doing? I need to be gluing these up. So I'm not going to hold back with the glue. Just waiting for that. Give her a nice little dose of glue. And also, I'm doing along the piece of the control horn which goes through. And the reason for that is that it then sticks inside of the actual elevon itself, or the movable surface. And then I'm just going to give her a little dose on the back. Like so. Let's go and do this one. And I'm going to have to go and check the all-up weight of this model once we've done it, because there's hardly any weight to this model at all. Oh, and those of you thinking about, oh, Matt, can I use this for FPV? Yes, you can. I've used this with FPV. One of those little cameras, the little all-in-one ones. And by the way, go for the MC01, the Eachine MC01. Just glue it down to a bit of board, and then you can stick it on the front. And yeah, brilliant fun. Absolute brilliant fun. In fact, that one's on my desk because I was chatting to one of my buddies earlier and I was showing him how lightweight and how small it was. And yeah, anyway. Right, so I'm poking that in there. It's got a nice join on either side. That camera's just gone off. So we are going to now move to the iPad because my M20 camera has just been and given up. So yeah, that'd be fun. Well, to be honest, we were going to be doing some of the close-up stuff here anyway. So brilliant. So I've got those glued in. Next thing for us to do is that we got to make up these push rods. Now the thing is that with these push rods is that they're a little bit odd. As in that what we do is that we, look, I've got hot glue on me now, is that we glue that onto there like so. Okay, we put a bit of heat, so we put a bit of CA glue in there. Okay, and then we put a bit of heat shrink on top, and then we do the same at the opposite end. Okay, and Matty here has just realised that that was the reason why I was questioning in my head, is because I need to get that in there, and that means I've got to take that servo screw out and get that to fit. So let's go and get this lined up. So what I'm going to do is find a marker. I'm just going to go, can you see that on there? Yeah, you can see that there. So I've got that on the hole which I'm going to use, and I'm lining it up with that one, like so. Brilliant. And you'll notice that when I go and cut this one, I'm not going to cut the same one at the same time for the same length, because the other one may be slightly different, and it saves us trimming this out. So with that carbon fibre rod, just, well, there you go. As you can tell, I'm rolling it on the camera, and that's just snapped off. Sanding pad, I'm just going to give it a quick sand, like so. And that camera's a right quitter. I thought it was going to be with us for the long haul, and it chickened out. Right, where's that bit of doodad they gave us? Right, there's the doodad, which is the heat shrink tube. Now we need to have 4 pieces of this. So I'm going to fold it in half, like so. There's our halfway mark, and then if I fold that in half, we then get a quarter. Like so. Let's put that one piece to one side, put that in there. Now I do have a hot air gun, and that's what I will be using to shrink the heat shrink down with. So obviously you could use a lighter. By the way, do go careful if you start using a lighter with CA glue, because it is rather flammable, as I found out the other day. So yeah, a little tip there. Just go a little bit careful if you're using a lighter. Heat gun, one of those hot air guns, you know the ones which I mean, the ones which you use for painting and decorating. Right, I'm just getting that lined up. Brilliant. So that's that in there. I'm off to go and hot air gun that one. Are we turned on? No. Get that plugged in. Like I said, I'm going to try and leave no edits in there. The only edit which I'm going to do is when I walked out the door to see what that noise was outside. Right, that's in there well enough. Well, well enough for us right now to see what the right length is for that. So if that's in there, right, you may not have spotted this yet, but you'll notice that this one here is on that angle, but when we put it down there, we need the other piece, which we've got in this bag, to be at the opposite angle. So we need them at 90 degrees to each other. So that one sits in the servo like that, and then we need that one to be on an angle like that to go through our control horn at the back. Okay, and I've just been eyeing that up, and I think I've cut that almost perfectly. In fact, why don't I just pop that in there? I said almost perfectly. I need to come back about 3 or 4 mil, so the end of that goes straight in there. So I'm going a bit careful with this one, because remember, we've only just stuck a little bit of glue on that. And again, this will rot the camera. Brilliant. Job's a good one. And we need that on a right angle. So stick that on first, our bit of heat shrink. Then we need to give it a dose of glue. Did I give it a scuff? If in doubt, give it another scuff. Wipe the excess off. Nice bit of super glue. Come on. Right, good old dose of super glue on that. And let's go and get that lined up. And I know that I'm going to get super glue over my fingers now. Great. Ah, stuck to my finger. Right. What I need to do and make sure when I go and heat that up is that This one's on one angle and this one is on the side, like so. So yeah, 90 degrees. So I'm just going to hold that one. You can tell I put enough super glue in that because I'm starting to stick to it. So I'm just going to hold that in place. It visually looks about right. And obviously when you're doing this, do go careful with your fingers. Jobs are good. Right. So if you can see that on the camera, I've got this one here pointing straight out, and then this one here, actually ironically, and not on a enough angle, but it's good enough. Okay. So when we jab that in there through the top hole, if I can see what I'm doing, is that now sits down vertically into the top of the servo. Now, somewhere on my desk I did have the screwdriver, so I'm going to quickly undo that. And by the way, that's another reason why you should be using the blue Loctite, is because you actually stand a chance of getting it undone should you connect, put it in, or need to get it undone. Like so. Now, big tip for you, okay? If you've never ever flown a flying wing before, okay, logic is not right. Logic, it would say, and I only know this because I've done it myself, okay, is that with these control surfaces, so your surface, you always need these elevons up a little bit. Not massively, just a little bit, okay? Don't have them straight down or pointing down. You need them up by just a couple of degrees, okay? Otherwise it will sag towards the ground. Brilliant, so that's that side done. Next side, same routine. Just need to find the bits and the bit of heat shrink which they gave us. Well, it was actually kind of a cool idea doing it this way. I do like these little carbon fibre push rods. And yeah, it was only on my mental bonsai which I've broken a push rod set up like that. And that was a horrific unscheduled landing. I can tell you, it was bad. And I'm surprised the model's still alive. And yeah, that's really bad. That was a lot of gluing that night, I can tell you. So again, just using the craft knife, rolling it gently on the carbon fibre rod, like so. Then, jobs are good in. Just going to quickly eye it up again. Yep, we're looking good. So the first one, we're not that bothered about which way round it goes, because it's only the other one which we are concerned about. So a nice little dose of glue on there. Again, I'm leaving the bottle on its side on the desk. I don't know if you can see that. I'm just leaving it on its side so that when I go and use it again in a moment, is that I've got it available to me. And there's glue there, and it will get there much, much more quickly to the nib. Right. So there we go. There's the second one. Not the best lighting in the world. Apologies. Old M20 over there, copped out. Not a bad camera. And by the way, that does mean that I've probably created about a 10 gigabyte file on it. So if I'm frankly honest, I am waiting for the iPad to crap out on us as well. So we're almost there. And by the way, if it does crap out on us, winglets, glue them on, chuck it. That's the basic summary for us to go here. Oh, and check the CFG and put your propeller on. Besides, just in case that one does cop out, that's all you need. Okay, it's simple as that. Glue the winglets on with hot glue. Okay. What I would also do is get some goop glue and put it along this front edge, especially this nose piece, because remember on my other one, drop that, I smashed up the nose, and that's because I didn't put any goop glue on the nose. Okay, if you use some of that goop glue, get the plumbing stuff. It's not cheap. Copy decks would also work. Okay, and it will make the model a lot more crash resistant, or so should I say, unscheduled landing resistance. Right, put the bit of heat shrink on first, because otherwise it will be a pain in the rear to put back on when we if we stick the glue on it. Come on, glue. You said that little tip of putting on its side, it does make it faster because it's not gone to the bottom of the bottle, but when you don't have a lot of glue left in the bottle, it still takes forever. Right, good, nice big dose of glue on that. In fact, I'm just going to spread that round, all the way round, like so. Lid on. Where's our little tool? Get yourself stuck to it. Brilliant. Now this time around, this piece needs to be in the opposite direction. So there's that one there which is pointing downwards, and then this one needs to point to our left at the opposite direction. So again, I'm going across to the hot glue gun, not hot air gun. Stuck. Oh, feeling hot, 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 hot! Alright, that's not good enough. Yeah, the other thing you're using that hot air gun is that it does make the glue set very quickly. But do go a little bit careful with it, and obviously leave this model overnight. Well, I would personally leave it overnight if you can. To just make sure that what glues you have used have actually been and set. Okay, just a note of sanity there. So let's get that servo horn on, and again you'll see me just pulling that elevon up a touch and then pushing it down. In fact, that's gone down a bit flat, so I already know from experience that I'll need to put a little bit of trim in there. Now hot glue on, because we are on the home stretch. Now while that hot glue gun is warming up, okay, is that what I did find is that if you try and overpower this model, okay, and I mean overpower it as in try running it with 3S and stuff like that, you try chucking it off a slope in nigh on 40 mile an hour wind, or put a stupidly great big EDF on top of it, is that this model will crack here and here, either side, okay? Now the solution to that, which I found was extremely crude and yet extremely effective, is what I went and did on the bottom of mine is that I just glued on a piece of plywood. Now that was about the size which I had, and I just cut it up with the dirty hack tool, Dremel, and glued that on the bottom, and it solved the problem pretty much instantly. So if you go and fly yours and you notice one of the wings crack or something like that on the side, don't panic, just glue on a piece of plywood. Now if you do have a little bit of plywood to hand, go and do that before you do it. It will make this model last a lot longer, okay? And yeah, they are now including 2 pieces of carbon fibre in the kit. So you'll see that I got that underneath there. But even if you add 4 pieces of carbon fibre, it just would not compete with the size of a piece of plywood on the bottom. Okay, and that, frankly honest, that's what I'll probably end up doing to this one. Okay, but I think I'll trim mine up on the edges a little bit more. Excuse me, to make it a little bit nicer. Now I am running out of time on here. It's gone into an hour-and-a-half build. According to the timer on that, and I do need to leg it in a moment. So the last part of this build is for us to glue on the winglets. Now a little note for you is that you don't glue the winglets and then stick them on. You glue the wing and then stick on the winglets, if that makes sense. So I'm probably going to do this off. Oh, no, I'm doing my best to keep this on camera for you. Okay, so I've got a winglet lined up. Now before we go any further, you want the front edge of the winglet on there like so, okay? Not forwards, like that, because that will just, all that front piece will just break off, okay? You want it flat on the bottom, and you want the edge just like that, okay? That's how you want it, all right? So with that said, Matt will probably glue it up wrong, and so I'm just keeping it on a flat surface. Just trying to keep the wing down flat like so. And this is one of those moments where you probably want to put something underneath so it doesn't glue itself to the desk. Haha! Learnt the second time around, didn't I? Is this glue gun on? Yay, that's on. Let's glue the desk up. Nice big dose. Apologies, right now the most important piece is the end of this wing and the winglet. So that may not be in focus. No apologies. Same as that if you were building yours, you would focus on the most important piece at hand, which right now is this little winglet. So I'm just going to hold that there and let it set. And remember that little tip with the craft pins, especially the ones with the little bulbils on the end. They work really, really well. And that's set in there quite nicely. So, and it did stick to the bottom quite nicely too. So I am just going to, because I've got this small little nib on this glue gun, I am just going to go along and give her a little bit of extra support. Let's go and do the opposite side. Make sure we got the winglet to hand. Give her a nice big dose of hot glue. Like so. Glue down. Line that up. And to be honest, it would have probably been a better idea to use some of a nice big flat edge. Oh, like a piece of wood. Ah, there you go. So I hope you learned a few tips while we've been going through this. So I'm just using that piece of plywood to provide a consistent force all the way across that joint while the glue sets. That seems to be good enough. And if I turn it round, I'm just going to give her a little bead of glue all the way down the edge. Happy days. Right. Brilliant. Gentlemen's, and probably a lady. There we go. There is our model. And that took, according to my timer, an hour and 38. 1 hour and 38 minutes. Okay, so I don't know what the edited time is going to come out like. It probably won't be far off that, but do allow me for a minute or two just going back to the desk for getting the timings right on here. So I'm going to stuff the battery in there, and I am just going to...
Welcome to the Tyrannus. Engine off. Metal rates.
Engine off. So now I know I'm safe. Okay. Where's those two little dots which I had? Okay. Just trying to... Do you know what? That's probably alright. I'm just using the... remember those bits of hot glue which I had underneath? Like so. Right. That, for me, is going to be spot on. Okay? And I know it's going to be alright for me, because my flying wings is that while they're really, really good fun when they are nose heavy, and by the way, you could have obviously put the battery around the other way around, blah, 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 is that I do run mine just a tad, I mean just a tad, behind the CFG, which does make them slightly more efficient. Okay, so let's quickly go through movements. Let's go and check the obvious. Let's go and check the power.
Engines armed. Engine off.
Right, loads of power. I like that. Okay, right, I'm not panicking because I know that on my Raven, I plugged my Raven in channel 4. So, instead of channel 3 on my receiver. Right. Right, up and down are right. So I pull back. Make sure you can see this. So I'm pulling back on the stick, the elements are coming up. But when I turn right, look, they're the wrong way round. Right should be coming up, Okay, let me just check down. Yeah, so up and down. So when I push away on the stick, it's going down. Good. Pulling back, they're both coming up. Now for ailerons, okay, when I push right, this one should come up and that one should go down. So it's the wrong way round. So again, I don't know how well this is going to come out on here. So I'm using Tyrannus. Do check your own manual for your doodads. If I cheat, because with the Tyrannus there's always more than one way of, no, I'm going to do it this way around. So I need to turn the ailerons the other way round. So I'm just going to change that to -100 and turn that to +100. Little tip for you, when you go down to your value, if you mash the plus and minus buttons together, it turns it from a negative to a positive, or a positive to a negative, like so. And aha, there we go, correct movements. Right, 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 left, 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 up, down. So right, left, up, down, right, left, up, down. And no apologies for doing right, right, left, left. That's what I do on the flight line, just to make sure everything's working correctly. So happy days, there she is. 1 hour and 41 minutes and 55 seconds build time. And compared to the other models which I spent, I finished doing the Raven flying wing at 1 o'clock this morning. What a pain in the ass. I'm not bleeping that out. I'm just being open and honest with you. What a pain in the rear. I spent 4 hours minimum making that model. And it was much longer than that. And did I turn that glue gun off? Yes, I did. Is that I spent far longer than that. It was probably like an 8-hour build in total, including the extra, because I turned it into a blunt nose. So it was a right pain in the rear. Whereas compared to this, what are we talking? An hour and a half, okay? Because I've been here chatting away. You could easily do it in an hour and a half. I've been here chatting to you, running off and doing other, trying to talk away through all the steps. If I was just here by myself, an hour and a half tops, okay? If not an hour, okay? Just going flat out with the pieces, you would very, very quickly whip this together. Now, like I said, 2 tips for you. Is number 1, I'm going to now go on and put some goop glue along this leading edge, okay? It will make this front leading edge a lot more robust, and it means that it will last much longer for us. Also, the second tip, and I'll do it on both sides of course, okay? The other one is that if you do notice it cracking on the joints there, piece of plywood, I think that's about 4mm plywood, and then pop that up underneath. So that now leaves us in the last place, which is, and I'm going to get closer to the other microphone so you can hear me a little bit better. So, number 1, thank you for taking the time to watch this video. It wasn't a short video by any means. It was never meant to be one of those quick build videos. I left all my screw-ups in, and again, I will leave all my screw-ups in here. I'll leave the odd curse or 2 as well. But I sincerely hope that this video has helped you. Any comments, feedback, suggestions, good, bad, or ugly, I'd really appreciate it. Please do let me know what you thought of this build video, and you can do that by leaving me a comment underneath it. And if you enjoyed it, please press the like button on this video. In fact, press the like button on all the videos which I produce. That would be really nice. You know. Anyway, yeah, happy days. It doesn't look like it needs any trim, to be honest. Let me just quickly put it up in my eye, and you probably see that on there. Yeah. I don't know if you... I'm just going to put that on there so you can see the amount of movement on... Let's get that right on that camera. Okay, like so. That is pretty much, flukedly, I reckon she's going to fly pretty straight immediately. Now, I can't go and fly this. I've got other stuff to do today. It is Sunday here. And I need to go and catch up with my family. So on that note, thank you ever so much for taking the time to watch this video. Utterly appreciated. This is my first proper build video. I sincerely hope that you enjoyed it. And on that note, on the iPad, cheerios!